All right, let's dive into this Dreamfolks Services Limited.
Okay.
They're really kind of shaking things up in this whole travel and lifestyle space. But I gotta say, looking at some of their recent moves kind of makes you wonder, are they maybe spreading themselves a little thin?
Yeah, I can see that.
We've got a whole stack of their stuff here. Their Q3 and 9-month FY25 investor presentation,
Okay.
the earnings call transcript, and the unaudited financials. What I'm really curious about is,
Hmm.
can they actually pull off this global expansion? They're really setting their sights high.
It's a good question, and it's one that a lot of analysts are asking.
Mm.
Most folks know Dream Folks for those airport lounges,
Mhm.
especially in India,
Right.
and they've been killing it there, really dominating that market.
Yeah.
But they're really trying to position themselves to be like the travel and lifestyle provider,
Okay.
not just in India, but globally. I mean, they're
Yeah.
talking about everything from airport lounges to golf course access. It's a pretty big jump.
So are they actually doing well, or is this just, hype?
Yeah. Well, the financials paint an interesting picture. Revenue's up 11.5% year on year in Q3,
Okay.
and even higher for the 9-month period, 14.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually outperforming the industry.
Mm. So things are looking good then.
Well, not quite so fast.
Okay.
Their profitability has dipped a little bit. PA is down 1.1% in those 9 months.
Uh-huh.
And there's some pressure on their gross margins, which are down to 11.8% in the same period.
Hmm. Interesting.
It's still within their guidance of 11-13%,
Okay.
but it definitely raises some eyebrows.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So why the mixed signals then?
Well, it really comes down to this thing called spend-based programs.
Okay.
So essentially what's happening is that banks are starting to require higher spending thresholds
Right.
for those credit card perks, to get access to the airport lounges.
Oh.
This directly affects Dream Folks because they're the ones providing a lot of that lounge access. So even though they're getting more clients, that mix of high usage and low usage customers is changing. And that's what's affecting their profitability.
Okay. So it's not just as simple as looking at like, oh, their revenue is growing.
Yep.
It's more nuanced than that.
Much more.
What does that mean for, someone like me who uses those lounge perks? Should I be worried?
Well, maybe. It depends.
Yeah.
If you're a high roller and you're hitting those new spending thresholds, you're probably fine.
Okay.
But if you're someone who's barely getting there for those lounge visits,
Yeah.
you might want to rethink your strategy or maybe your credit card.
Good point. Good point. Now, from what I saw in their investor presentation, they're not just like sitting back and letting this happen. They've got this like three-pronged expansion plan, right?
They do. They're tackling it head on.
Yeah.
So first, they're really trying to diversify their services
Okay.
beyond just those lounges.
Yeah.
So we're talking baggage wrapping, coffee at malls, golf course bookings, you name it.
Mhm.
They're even moving beyond just the travel perks, going into lifestyle benefits.
Oh, wow. So trying to become the everything app for everything.
That's it.
It's pretty ambitious.
It is. And then the second prong is they're trying to expand their clientele as well.
Okay.
So adding big enterprise clients like those online travel agencies, and they're even snagging new banking partners.
Right. So not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Yeah.
And then finally, the big one, global reach.
Okay.
They're adding 16 new international lounges, F&B outlets in the Middle East.
Wow.
And they've got meet and assist services at over 380 airports.
That's a lot.
They're going all in.
So how does this all tie back to that central question of can they actually pull this off?
Right.
Especially with, Priority Pass already out there.
Yeah, well, it seems like Dream Folks is betting on this very specific model, what they call their integrated benefits model.
Okay.
Basically, instead of offering like a separate membership card for lounge access like Priority Pass does,
Yeah.
they integrate their services directly into their clients' existing systems.
Okay.
So your lounge access would be tied to your credit card
Mm-hmm.
or your corporate travel program, even a loyalty program with a specific brand.
Gotcha.
So it's less about being like this standalone brand like Priority Pass and more about being like the engine behind the scenes.
Okay, so it's more about those partnerships.
Exactly. They're aiming for these deep long-term relationships with clients.
Yeah.
And they're offering a much wider range of benefits. It's not just about the lounges anymore.
So that's how they're trying to set themselves apart.
Right.
Will it be enough to win globally, though?
It's a good question.
Where Priority Pass already has such a strong foothold?
Yeah.
And can they manage, we talked about those changing margins
Right.
and the financial risks. I guess we'll dig into those a little deeper in the next segment.
Definitely.
So we talked about Dreamfolks' big ambitions,
Yeah.
their strategy for this global push, but let's get back to the numbers for a sec.
Sure. You mentioned their financial health earlier.
Right.
What are we actually looking at here?
So from their unaudited financials,
Okay.
they've got pretty strong cash flow from operations.
Okay.
It's actually up significantly from the previous year.
Right.
And their balance sheet looks pretty healthy, decent cash reserves.
That sounds pretty promising.
It is.
But you also mentioned some risks.
Yeah.
What should we be watching out for?
Well, there are a few things
Okay.
that could kind of throw a wrench in their plans.
Okay.
Remember those spend-based programs?
Oh, yeah.
The ones we were talking about earlier?
Right.
Well, the long-term impact on their margins, that's still a bit of a question mark.
Okay.
If banks keep pushing those spending thresholds higher, it could really squeeze Dreamfolks' profitability.
So even though their revenue's growing,
Exactly.
they might not be making as much profit on each customer?
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that could impact their ability to, invest in these new services, all these expansions they're talking about.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Any other potential roadblocks we should be thinking about?
Well, there's the competitive landscape.
All right.
Obviously, we talked about Priority Pass.
Yeah.
But there's also the potential for these large airport operators,
Okay.
like GMR and Adani, to actually launch their own lounge programs.
Oh, interesting.
What if they just decide to cut out the middleman?
Right.
Offer those perks directly to travelers.
No, that would be a game changer.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if they start being super competitive on pricing
Yeah?
or bundling it with other airport services.
Yeah.
Dreamfolks would really have to, come up with a strong counter strategy.
For sure. For sure. And speaking of strategy, let's not forget about Dreamfolks' secret weapon,
Okay.
their technology.
Right, right. They're always talking about this platform.
Mm.
What's the big deal with it?
Yeah, well, I mean, from the earnings call transcript,
Uh-huh.
Balaji seemed really excited about it.
Yeah, he was.
Talking about all these features like letting clients customize benefit packages
Okay.
and track their usage.
Hmm.
Consumers get easy access and redemption options.
Like using QR codes and stuff.
Exactly. Sounds pretty sophisticated.
It does.
And what's really impressive
Yeah.
is that they built this thing in-house.
Oh, wow.
It's entirely cloud-based.
Okay.
They're constantly updating it, evolving it.
So they're not relying on some clunky,
No.
third-party software.
It gives them a level of control and flexibility that a lot of their competitors just don't have.
Okay.
So they can adapt quickly
Yeah.
to changes in the market, tailor it to their clients' needs.
That's a pretty big advantage,
It is.
especially as they're adding all these services.
That's because they scale.
Yeah. Yeah. What really stood out to you, from Balaji's description?
I think their hybrid model,
Okay.
Dreamfolks, has figured out a way to integrate their platform with all their clients' existing systems.
Okay.
So whether it's a bank's credit card program or a company's travel booking system, it's all connected seamlessly.
Mm.
But at the same time, they offer all these different access points for consumers.
Right.
So mobile apps, QR codes, you can even have physical cards if you want.
So it's super integrated,
Yeah.
but also really flexible at the same time.
Exactly. It's like they're building the backbone for this whole travel and lifestyle ecosystem.
Okay.
It's really impressive. It's what makes them so fascinating to watch.
Yeah, right.
They're not just offering a bunch of random perks.
Yeah.
They're creating a unified experience.
Yeah.
And that could fundamentally change how we travel, how we access these benefits.
Right, right. Okay, so we've got a company with strong financials,
Yeah,
an ambitious expansion plan,
for sure.
this powerful tech platform.
Right.
But what about the people?
Oh, right.
Who's steering the ship here?
Well, the investor presentation highlighted their leadership team. They've got a good mix of, industry veterans and tech-savvy innovators.
Okay.
Leading the charge is Liberava Kalat.
Okay.
She's the chairperson and managing director.
Right.
She's been with the company for over a decade.
Wow.
Has a really strong background in the travel and hospitality sectors.
Yeah, and from her closing remarks in the investor presentation, she seemed incredibly optimistic
She did.
about their future. It didn't sound like they're just chasing profits.
No.
They're trying to build something special. Yeah.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear that kind of long-term vision.
Yeah.
Especially in a market that can be so focused on,
Short-term gains.
short-term gains. Exactly. Like
Yeah.
they're saying, we're in it for the long haul. We want to build a legacy.
Which makes their story even more compelling.
It does.
So we got this company at this pivotal moment,
Yeah.
going from this dominant player in India
Right.
to a global contender,
Yeah, it's big.
their success or failure could have ripple effects throughout the whole industry.
Absolutely.
But, before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's bring this back to our listener for a sec.
Sure.
Why should they care about all of this?
Well, because this is about more than just business.
Okay.
It's about how we travel,
Yeah.
how we access these benefits and experiences,
Right.
and how technology is shaping all those choices.
Think about it.
Yeah, think about it.
Think about what? Don't leave me hanging.
Well, think about those spend-based programs.
Oh, right.
Dreamfolks is betting big on those becoming like the standard.
Okay.
So as a traveler, as someone who uses these benefits,
Yeah.
are you comfortable with that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to potentially spend more
On my credit card.
exactly to keep those perks?
Yeah.
Or will you start looking for other ways to get those benefits,
Yeah, it really makes you think about, what you're willing to give up,
right?
for convenience.
Yeah, the trade-offs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And what happens if they do become this massive gatekeeper
Oh,
to the whole travel world?
It's possible.
What if they start striking all these exclusive deals
Yeah,
with certain airlines or hotels?
that's a good point. What if their algorithm is nudging you towards certain choices
Right.
based on their partnerships, their revenue models,
It's like those personalized recommendations on the streaming services.
Right.
It's like they're helpful, but it also makes you think
Yeah, are you really making the choice?
yeah, am I?
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like a philosophical question.
It is.
Convenience versus control.
Yeah.
Are we willing to give up some
A
control?
little bit of freedom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a smoother, travel experience.
maybe.
It's definitely something to think about, especially as they grow.
Absolutely.
And this whole model becomes more common.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll use their power for good,
Right.
Like, what if they actually use all that data
Okay.
and their partnerships?
To promote sustainable travel.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
What if you could get, extra rewards for picking the eco-friendly flights?
Right. Or staying at locally owned hotels.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, great.
That would be awesome.
They could use their platform to really incentivize good choices,
Yeah.
not just drive profits.
I like that a lot. But let's not get too carried away.
Right.
They still have a lot to prove.
They got to actually execute on this global expansion,
Yeah.
manage those changing margins, fend off the competition.
And I have to address all those ethical considerations, right?
For sure.
If they want to build trust
Yeah.
and get that long-term loyalty.
Transparency is key,
Yeah.
and responsible data usage, that's going to be crucial.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got this company with a bold vision, a strong track record in India,
That's right.
and a tech platform that could really, really change things.
Yeah, for sure. So for our listeners, the key takeaway from this deep dive into Dreamfolks, I think it's this. They're at a crossroads.
Okay.
They're trying to go from a big fish in a small pond to a global player.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
It
It's
is.
a huge jump.
It's a very competitive market.
Yeah.
They're ambitious. They're innovative.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to take risks.
Yeah.
Whether they'll succeed, that's still an open question.
Right.
But their journey, it could really impact all of us.
Yeah, it could change how we travel, how we access benefits,
Absolutely.
how we experience travel.
The whole thing.
Wow, so keep an eye on Dreamfolks.
Yeah, their story's just getting started.
Who knows, maybe they will end up shaping a future where travel is more seamless,
More rewarding.
more aligned with our values.
That's the dream, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Dreamfolks Services Ltd.
Was a good one?
We hope you found it informative
Thought-provoking?
and thought-provoking. Until next time, happy travels.
Happy travels.